BI enables us to bring our data under one single roof, from multiple files or multiple applications. Clean the data to create a normalized data set, then visualize our data and share it with others in order to be able to make an informed business decision. I am Nabil Murad. In this tutorial, I bring multiple Excel tables and a CSV file. I clean and transform the source data, then create a nice interactive report that answers questions about my data. I then publish the report to Power BI services. So let's start building our project from ground up in Power BI Desktop. Here is the source data I want to analyze. This is a CSV file having comma-separated values. This is my fact table. I also have 4-dimension tables. One storing information about managers, the other one storing information about clients, a third one storing information about payment, and a fourth one storing information about provinces where we have our business. I want to show you the finished project in Power BI. This is my first report in Power BI, the sales report, and I have answers to different questions. In this column and line chart, I can see the gross profit and the gross profit percent by manager, and then on a donut chart, I see the total sales by payment method. On a funnel chart, I see the gross profit for each company, and then on a scattered chart, I see the sales and gross profit percent by province, and on a map, I see the sales by province. To the left side, I have some cards that I show the sum of sales, the sum of cost of goods sold, the profit, and the fees paid for each transaction. Everything is fully interactive, so I can change the date range by dragging the slider to the right or dragging this slider to the left. Note everything is updating accordingly, the cards and all the charts. I also have a slicer for the different regions, so if I click on the down arrow for the second slicer, I can select a single region, let it be the central region. Everything updates on the fly. If I select another region, everything is dynamic and I can clear my filter. I have a floating tooltip, so here on the donut chart I have the total sales by payment, but if I hover over any one of the payment methods, then I can break down the numbers by manager, and it's fully interactive and it's fully dynamic. I have the same floating tooltip for the gross profit by company. I can see the sales for each one of the sales rep dealing with this specific company, and as I said, everything is dynamic. I have another report, the KPI report, and on this report I see a matrix where I have column headers and I have row headers. I can see all the numeric values, sales, cost of goods sold, after discount, fees, gross profit percent, and then I have two slicers as well. I can filter by selecting one of the payment methods. So if I select, let's say, Amex and Master, everything is updating. I can also filter by client. So if I deselect all and then I select two of the clients, let's say Costco and Sears, everything updates on the fly. I have a beautiful background for my report, and this background was designed in PowerPoint. Now let's start our project from scratch. I'm going to open a blank Power BI file. This is a new Power BI file. The screen you see in black and yellow, this is the splash screen. You can see that I'm signed in the upper right corner, and anything I can do from the Getting Started screen can be done from within the interface. Then I'm going to close the splash screen by clicking on the Close button in the upper right corner. In Power BI Desktop, we have three views. We have the Report view, we have the Data view, and we have the Model view. And we start by bringing the data into our file. And to do that, I click on the Get Data, and because I want to start bringing an Excel workbook, I select Excel workbook. I could have selected it directly from the ribbon. When I click on Excel Workbook, I will navigate to the location of the exercise folder, and I'll be selecting the dimensions.xlsx. You can download the exercise files and follow along by clicking on the link below this video. When I hit Open, a navigator window will show me the contents of that file, and I can tell that I have two types of contents. The first four options correspond to tables. I can see the blue horizontal line, and then I have the next four options corresponding to sheets. I'm going to explore the first table. This is the client's table, and then here is the manager's table, the payments table, and the provinces table. Usually tables are well structured. Then I'm going to check the box to bring the four tables. These are my dimension tables. I'm going to select them, and I'm going to click on Load. In the Fields pane, I can see the four tables. They have been imported and loaded to Power BI Desktop. My next step will be bringing the CSV file. Then I click on the down arrow for Get Data. I select text/CSV. I select the file Sales Data, and then I hit Open. When I look at this file definitely has a problem. Multiple pieces of information sharing the same cell, and they are separated by commas. Then I definitely need to take this file to the query editor. Then I click on Transform Data. The query editor opens on top of Power BI Desktop. It looks identical to Excel. And here is my data. The first thing I want to do is to split this single column into multiple columns at the position of each comma. I do that by clicking on Split Column on the Home tab, and I select by delimiter. The Split Column by Delimiter dialog box opens, and my delimiter was identified as a comma, and that's correct. I'm going to hit OK to split this single column into multiple columns. I want to promote the first row to become headers instead of column 1, column 2, and I do that by clicking on Use First Row as Headers. Now I have nice headers: date, region, manager, client, payment, cost of goods sold, and sales. The date has been perceived as a number, and I know that from the data type. When I click on this little icon, 1, 2, 3 means whole number. And if I select date at this point, it will return an error. Let me show you what happens if I select date. Now if I select date and say replace current, look at this, it's returning an error. Then I'm going to convert it back to a whole number. And to convert it to a date, I have to do it in two steps. I convert it first to whole number, then I add another step. I don't replace the previous one. So I say date, data type, select add new step, and now I have it formatted as date. Finally, for the cost of goods sold and sales, I press the Shift key, and I want to format these two columns. I right-click and select Change Type and select Fixed Decimal Number, which means a currency formatting, and I can see the $sign appearing here. Now I can send this data back to Power BI Desktop by clicking on the left side of the Home tab. I click on Close and Apply. Now I can see in the Fields pane the 5 tables, but in order to analyze the data altogether, I need to create relationships. And to create relationships, I go to the Model View. That's the equivalent of Power Pivot. When I go to the Model View, now I can collapse this Properties pane and the Fields pane to make more room. I want to organize my tables. So I have the clients, I have the payments, I have the provinces. Some of the relationships were identified automatically and some were not identified. Rearranging the tables or resizing them has no effect on the functionality. Now I would like to create a relationship between the province ID and the region. I can drag it and drop it, but I just want to show you these fields with sample data. Then I'm going to click on Manage Relationships, and here I'm going to create a new relationship. In the new relationship, I'll be selecting sales data. From the lower drop list, I'll be selecting the provinces. What's the matching field? It's the region from the upper one, the province ID from the second table. I hit OK, and I hit Close to create the relationship. When you hover over the line, You can see the matching fields. All of them are one-to-many relationship. I'm going to switch to the other view, the data view, and start creating some calculations. There are two types of calculations that we can create. I select the sales data table, and here I'm going to create a calculated column. A calculated column means it will be returning a value for each row. The first calculated column that I'll be creating will be the amount of sales after discount. I have a sales amount in this column, but if I go to the clients table, clients are getting different discounts. So each client might get a discount, some of the clients do not get a discount, and the discount amount is different. Then what I would like to do in the sales data table is to multiply the sales by 1 minus the discount amount. And I'm going to do that in a new column. I'll call it after discount. I click on new column on the table tools tab, and in the new column, I'll be typing after discount. I type space equal sign space, and my calculation will be the sales. A field name is typed in square brackets. When I type an opening square bracket, I can select the sales and then I hit the tab key. I want to multiply it, so a multiplication symbol. I open a bracket and I type 1 minus. I want to bring the discount. The discount is in the clients table, so I have to go through the relationship. Each client has a client ID, and the client ID is available in the sales table, and it's also available in the client table. Through the relationship, I want to get the related discount. Then I use a DAX function called related. So I type related, and then I hit tab. I want to bring a related value from the client's table, which is the client discount. I hit the tab key and I close the bracket. When I hit enter, I would have created my first calculated column after discount. My next calculated column will look at the payments table. And when you look at the payments table, depending upon the payment method, you pay some charges. And there is a payment ID which is available as well in the sales data table. So if I go back to the sales data table, if you want to calculate the fees, then you have to look at the payment ID, go through the relationship, and calculate the fees. Let's calculate the fees. I click on new column, and I'll name the field fees, space equal sign space. And here I have to multiply the amount after discount. I open a square bracket, I hit the tab key to select the after discount, and I multiply it by the related charge from the payment table. Then I type related, I hit the tab key, and from the payment table I select charges, I hit the tab key, I close the bracket, and when I hit enter, I would have created my second calculated column. I can format as English United States. And now I get only 2 decimal places, and that's fine. I'll be doing the same for the after discount. I format it as English United States. My next step will be creating some calculated fields or measures. A measure will work on an entire column and it will return a single number. A measure appears only in the fields pane and is used in creating visualization based upon different conditions. To create a measure, there are different ways for doing this. I can go to the Table Tools tab and then I click on New Measure. That's one way of doing things. And my first measure will be adding up all the numbers in the sales column, and I'll call it total sales. So I use a sum function. I open a square bracket and I select the sales. I hit the tab key, I close the bracket, hit enter. Then I format it as English United States. My next measure will be adding up the cost of goods sold. Then I can click on New Measure. I'll name it Total Cost of Goods Sold, space equal sign space. I use a sum function. I hit the tab key, open square bracket, and select the cost of goods sold. I hit the tab key, close the bracket for the sum function. I hit enter, and I format it as English United States. The two measures I created appear in the fields pane. Here is the total cost of goods sold and the total sales. I want to calculate the gross profit, and the gross profit means the amount that the client pays after discount, and from this amount I subtract the fees and the cost of goods. Then I'll be creating one more measure. I can do that by right-clicking the source table name, right-click, and here at the top I select New Measure. That's another way of creating a measure, and I'll name it Gross Profit, space equal sign space. And for the gross profit, I want the sum of the after discount column. Then I type sum, and then I hit tab, open square bracket, hit the tab key to select after discount and close the bracket. From this amount, I would like to subtract the sum of fees. Then I type sum, I hit the tab key, open square bracket, select the fees and hit the tab key and close the bracket for the sum function. Finally, I want to subtract the total cost of goods sold, so I type a minus sign, open square bracket, and then I hit the tab key. I hit enter, and here I would like to format as English United States. The final measure I want to create, I click on New Measure, which will be the gross profit percent. If I divide the gross profit that I just calculated by the total sale, that will give me the gross profit percent. I will name the measure gross profit percent. Then I type space equal sign space. I open square bracket, select the gross profit by hitting tab. I type a forward slash, and I want to divide. I open another square bracket, and I select the total sales. I hit the tab key, and then I hit enter. And I format this one as percentage, and I finished creating my measures. Now I want to start creating my report. Then I go to the report view. I have a visualization pane from which I select the type of visualization I want, and I drag and drop the different fields according to the type of visualization I select. Before I do that, I want to change the background of my report. Then before creating any visualization, I'm going to click on this roller icon, which is the Format tab. And when I click on the roller icon, I want to change the page background. Then I have page background option. I expand it by clicking on the down pointing arrow. And under page background, I have some options. I want to add an image. I already created the background in PowerPoint by combining different shapes and text boxes together with a picture I downloaded from the internet. If you want to use my background, I made it available for you. Otherwise, you can create your own background in PowerPoint and save the slide as a picture. I'm going to click on Add Image, and here is the background I created, named Main Background. I select it and then hit Open. I have to change the image fit. Then I click on the down arrow and select Fit. In order to see the background, I have to change the transparency and set it to 0%. When I do that, I can see the beautiful background that I created. And this beautiful background adds an artistic touch to the report, but it also accommodates the different cards that I'll be creating right now. So my next step will be creating some cards. So I'll be creating one of the cards by clicking on Card Visualization, and it creates a placeholder for the card visualization. Then for this one, I want to see the total sales. Then I check the box for sales, and here you go, we see the total sales. Formatting changes are always done through the Format tab. So when I click on the Format tab, I want to turn off the category. I don't want to see the word sale, then I'm going to turn it off. I also don't want to see the background, then I turn it off. I want to change the size of this text. Then for the data label, I expand data label and I want to change it. Let's say I want to make it 18. When I hit enter, I would have formatted my card. Now I can drag the card and position it in place, and that's fine. I can copy this card and create a second version. Then I'm going to copy it, and then I click on the paste command. Now I have a second version. All what I need to do is to change the field. Instead of sales, I want to make it cost of goods sold. I click on the fields pane, and then I drag the cost of goods sold, and I drop it over sales to replace it. Here is the cost of goods sold. It inherited the formatting and I saved some time. I'm going to copy and paste the second time, and this time I want the profit. Then I drag gross profit and drop it over cost of goods sold, and I drag it and position it in place, and I repeat one last time for the fees. I want to copy and paste, and now I can replace the field and use the fees instead. When I drag it and drop it, I get the sum of fees. That will be fully interactive when I create my slicers. Make sure you are deselecting the cards, and the next step will be creating a line and clustered column chart by going to the visualization. I click under visualization. Here is the line and clustered column chart. I can read it in the tooltip. When I give it a click, it adds a placeholder. I'm going to resize and reposition later, but for now, I want the gross profit percent for each manager. Then I expand the managers, and from here I select the name of the manager to the shared axis. I want the gross profit to the column values. Then I drag gross profit and drop it to the column values. I want the gross profit percent to the line values. I drag it and drop it, and I would have created my chart. Now I want to improve the appearance of this chart and add more functionality. Everything is done through the Format tab. On the Format tab, I'm going to turn off the legend, and I want to format the x-axis. So I expand the x-axis and format it, and then I'll be formatting similarly the y-axis. So let's do that. I want to add a zoom slider, so I expand zoom slider, I turn it on, and I want to add it for the y-axis, and I can see it here. That will enable me to emphasize the differences between the columns. Instead of starting at 0, I can move it up and start at 200. That amplifies the differences between the different columns if you like, and you can bring it back to 0 if you wish. I also want to remove the background, then I'm going to collapse the zoom slider. I go down to background and I turn it off. I want to add a title, gross profit and gross profit percent by manager, and format it. I do that by expanding title, and I'll be doing it here. I finished formatting my first visualization. I'm going to move it and position it to the upper left side. And I want to create my next visualization, which will be a donut chart that will represent the total sales for each payment method. I deselect the line and column chart, and then under visualization, I click on the donut chart. And for the donut chart, I need to represent the sales by payment method. I'm going to expand it a little bit, and I'll be selecting from payments. I'll be selecting the type, and I want to select the sales. Now I have the sales for the different payment methods. I want to copy the formatting of the header. I select it, and then I hit the Format Painter to the left side of the Home tab, and then I click on the donut chart, and I would have formatted it. I also want to reduce the inner radius of the donut chart. I do that by going to the Format tab. So on the Format tab, I expand shapes, and here I'm going to reduce the radius. Let's make it 35. I also want to customize the data labels, so I expand the data labels, and under label style, I'll be selecting category and data value. I want to position these labels. I want them to be white, and I want to position them inside, and that's fine. Now I need to reposition and resize my donut chart. My next visualization will be a funnel chart in which I represent the gross profit for each company. And to do that, after deselecting the previous visualization, I go to the visualization pane and I click on funnel chart. I want the gross profit by company. Then I select the company. I expand the clients table and I check the box for company, and then I want the gross profit. I can collapse here to make more room, and I want the gross profit. Then I check the box for gross profit and I would have created my funnel chart. I can copy the formatting as I did before by selecting the column and line chart, click on the format painter and paste the formatting. I get rid of the background, I bold the labels, it saves me some time. And now I want to move this chart in position. I need to reposition the different charts so that all of them are visible. For the funnel chart, I'll be formatting the categories and I'll be formatting the data labels in white, and I want them to be inside the funnel. My next visualization will be a scatter plot chart where I want to represent the sales, the gross profit percent by province. Under visualization, I click on the scatter chart. I select the fields. From the provinces table, I want the code, which will be the name abbreviated. I bring the sales to the x-axis, and then I bring the gross profit percent to the y-axis, and I would have created my scatter plot chart. I need to format it and improve its appearance. I'll be copying the formatting from the first chart as I did before, and then add further formatting. So I use the format painter and I paste the formatting on this chart. I go to the format tab. I want to turn off the zoom sliders. I will bring the fees to the size so that my bubbles grow bigger. Then I go to the values and I drag the fees to the size. And I also drag the after discount to the tooltip, and I drag after discount and I drop it in the tooltips. We need to apply some changes and some formatting. Then I go to the format tab. The first thing I'll do, I'll be changing the title. So I scroll down to title and I want to edit it. Sales gross profit percent by province. I want to change the size of bubbles, so I click on shapes and I drag the slider for shapes, and let's say I make it 10. My bubbles are much bigger. For the data color, I want to differentiate them by applying conditional formatting based upon the total sales, and I do that by going to data color. I click on the FX icon to open the conditional formatting dialog box. I'll be basing my conditional formatting on the total sales. Then I expand, select total sales, and then I want the lowest values to be in red. So I select more colors. I select the red color. I click outside, and I want an intermediate color. So I check the box for diverging. It adds the orange color, and that's fine. I hit OK. And now I can see the conditional formatting for the different bubbles based upon the total sales. The final thing I want to do is to turn on the category. Then for the category, I turn it on. I move the slider to on, and I can bump it a little bit up by changing the font type to Seago Bold. That's a very popular font, and I can make it bigger if I want, and I would have finished creating my scatter chart. The last visualization I'll be creating will be a map that shows the sales by province. To create a map, I click on the map icon under visualization, and here I'll be dragging the province to the location and the sales to the size. The map is created and I want to apply some formatting, then resize it and put it in the final position. I go to the Format tab. I turn off the category and the background, and then for the map style I make it grayscale. map style. I want to change it to grayscale. And I want to change the bubble size. I collapse the map size. I want to change the bubble size. I want to make it like 8. So let's make it 8. My bubbles are bigger. I can zoom in by pressing Ctrl and use the wheel of my mouse. And then I want to format the title as I did before. Then I collapse the bubble and I'll format it to match the other titles, white font, Seago bold, and gray background. Now I can resize my map. To fill the gap, I can put a shape, I can put a rectangle, and I do that by going to the Insert tab of the ribbon, click on Insert Shape, select Rectangle, adjust its size and its color. After resizing and repositioning all the visualizations, now I want to add the interactivity by creating a slicer. The first slicer I'll be creating will be for the date. Under Visualization, I click on the slicer icon, and then I drag the date to the field. And here is my slicer. I want to reposition it and format it. I don't want this header. I want the background to be transparent. And I do that by going to the Format tab. So for the slicer header, I'm going to turn it off. And then for the date inputs, I select it and I want to bold it a little bit. Then I select the Seago bold. And then I want to change the background and make it transparent. Then I turn off the background. And here is my slicer. I can resize it in place. The last element to add to my report will be a slicer for the regions. So I click on slicer one more time after deselecting the previous slicer. And here I want to drag the region or check the region. I want to format this slicer as a drop list. Then I click on this little down pointing arrow in the upper right corner and I select drop down. I want to remove this header. Then I go to the Format tab and for the slicer header I turn it off. I also want to add a select all option because when I click on the down arrow there is no select all. And if I want to select multiple items, I have to press Ctrl. I want to be able to select multiple items without the need of pressing Ctrl. These are called selection controls. I expand the selection controls. For the multi-select with Ctrl, I turn it off. Then I don't need to press Ctrl to select multiple items, and to bring the select all, I turn this slider on. I also want to turn off the background. And I want to format the different items. Then I expand items and I want to make them bigger. And I'll be changing the font type to Seago bold and resize my slicer. I finished creating my visualization. I want to test the interactivity. Then if I click on one of the provinces on the map, here are the sales for Ontario. If I click on it, it should filter all the other visualizations, including the cards. So when I click here, I'm filtering all the other visualizations down to Ontario. If I give it a second click, I'll be releasing the filter. I can select the date range by dragging the slider. So when I drag it to the right, then everything is updating. I can use the other handle of the slicer. I drag it to the left. Everything looks beautiful and dynamic. I can release the slicer by dragging the two handles to the extreme right and left. I can also test the second slicer by clicking on it and select, let's say, the central region and the prairie region. Everything is updating, my map is updating, my column chart, and I'm getting insights about my data in different ways. I'm going to select on and I'm releasing my slicer, and I finished creating the first part of my report. What remains here, I want to be able to hover over any one of the slices of my donut chart where I see the total sales for each payment method. I want to see them broken down by manager, and that requires creating a second page for the report. So I click on the plus sign. I added a new page for the report. I'm going to name it Managers. I hit enter, and by the way, I'll be naming the first page Sales Report. And now I start customizing the manager's report that I'll be using as a tooltip. The first thing I do, I go to the Format tab, and I want to change the page size. I expand page size, and I want to set the type to Tooltip. For the page information, I want to turn on Tooltip. After doing this, I can add my visualization, and my visualization will be a bar chart. Then I click on the bar chart, and I want to see the sales by manager. Then to the axis, I'll be bringing the manager name. So I expand managers, and I check the box for manager, and I want to bring the sales. And my bar chart is created. What I'll be doing next is formatting the vertical axis, and I'll be formatting the title, and I'll bring some data labels. Now that I formatted the manager's report, which was set to be a tooltip, I want to link it to the sales report. Then I go back to the sales report, and here I select the donut chart. Under Format tab, I go down to Tooltip, I expand it, and for the page, I want to set it to the tooltip that I named Managers. Then I select Manager, and now I can test it. When I hover over any one of the slices, I will see the tooltip, which is dynamic, and it shows me the sales broken down by manager for this specific payment type. I want to do the same for the funnel chart. Then I select the funnel chart, and I want to go down to tooltip. I'll be changing the page. I select managers. And now if I hover over any one of the companies like Costco, then I see the sales by manager for the client Costco. I finished creating my report. Now the managers is used as a tooltip. Then I want to hide it. I select it, right click, and then I hide this page. I want to create another page for my report. I will name it KPI. So I click on the plus sign, and I want to name it KPI. But for the KPI report, I have another background. I expand page background. I want to add an image. I'll be selecting this label background, which was also created in PowerPoint, and I saved it as a picture. I hit open. I change the image fit. I make it fit, and I change the transparency to 0%. Now I start creating my visualization. I'll be creating a matrix visualization. Then I click on this icon for matrix. And for the matrix, I'll be bringing the region. So under provinces, I check the box for region. And then I want the province. Then I check the box for province and make sure that I add it to the rows. Region and province to the rows. And then I want to bring so many numeric values. So I select the sales. It goes to the values. I want the cost of goods sold. And then I want the after discount, the fees, the gross profit, and the gross profit percent. That's all what I need for my matrix. I'm going to resize it, reposition it, and format it. So I resize my matrix. I see the region, but I don't see the province. Then I have to click on this icon, expand all down to drill down. And when I click on it, it will show me the region and the provinces in each one of the regions. I want to separate them into two different columns, and that is done by going to the Format tab. I expand the row headers, and under row header, I don't want the stepped layout. Then I turn it off, and that will separate the province and the region. I can apply a style. You can test the different styles. Bold header adds a black color to the column header and the row header. You can do that if you want. I'm going to apply the minimal style, and I'm going to apply some formatting to bump up the font size and make it easier to read. I formatted my matrix. I formatted the column headers, the row headers, the subtotals. And now I want to add a slicer for the payment type and a slicer for the company name. Then I click on the slicer icon under visualization. I expand the payment option. I check the box for type. For the items, I want to make them a little bigger. So I'll make them black. And I want to bump them up to 12. And I'll change the font type to Sego Bold. Then I collapse the item. I want to change my slicer to a drop list. Then I click on the down arrow, change it to a drop list. I resize it. I turn off the slicer header and I turn off the background. I resize my slicer and position it in place. I want to bring the select all and be able to select without pressing Control. This is done by going to the Format tab, Selection Control, and then I turn off multi-select, I turn on select all. Now if I test, then I have the select all and I can select a specific payment method. Then my matrix updates automatically. I want to release the slicer, then I click on select all. I click outside, I select the slicer because I want to copy it. Then I click on copy and then I click on paste. Then I move the second slicer under client. I change the field instead of type, so I expand clients, select company and put it instead of type. Then I resize my slicer, it's already formatted, and I can click on the down arrow, deselect all, and then select any specific company like Amazon and Costco, and everything updates on the fly. And I finished creating my report. Let me check select all and then click outside. This report consists of 2 pages, the sales report, which has all the visualizations and cards and 2 slicers, and the floating tooltip. And we have the KPI report, which had the matrix and the 2 slicers. Now the final thing I want to do before publishing it to Power BI services is to save my report. Then I go to Sales Report. I click on the Save button. A file created in Power BI has the extension .bbix. Then I'm going to name this one Sales Report. I hit Save. And to publish my report to Power BI services, so long as I'm signing in to Power BI services, and here is my name in the upper right corner, on the right side of the Home tab, I click on Publish, and when I click on Publish, it will ask me where would you like to save it. We have like different workspaces. Think of a workspace like a folder, and I want to save my report to my workspace, the default location. Then I select it, and then when I click on select, it will show me the progress of publishing, and once it's done, it will show me that it was successfully published. If you want to have a look at the report in Power BI services, then you click on Open Sales Report.bbix, and when I click here, it's launching my browser. And it's taking me to the report. Here it says Power BI. This is my workspace. The report is fully interactive in Power BI services, so I can click on one of the payment methods, let it be Amex, and when I click on Amex, I'm filtering down all the visualization just to Amex. If I click a second time, I'm releasing. If I click, let's say, on Ontario, then I'll be filtering all the visualizations to Ontario. If I give it a second click, I'm releasing the filter. I can test my slicer for the date by dragging to the right or dragging to the left. I can test my slicer for the region by deselecting all the regions and select 1 or 2 regions only, and everything updates on the fly. I select all and then I click outside. I can go to the second page of the report, which is the KPI. When I click on KPI, here is my matrix. I can test my slicer, select a payment type. Let's say I want to select Visa, and everything is filtered down to Visa. I want to select a specific client. I deselect all, and let's say I want to select Staples. Everything updates, and my report is fully dynamic in the clouds. Should you wish to share this report, then you click on the share icon, and here you need to provide an email depending upon the level of permission you have. You can invite people from inside or outside your organization. And you can also edit the report, and if you want to edit, you click on the edit command, and here I see the visualization pane and all the functionality as if I'm working in Power BI desktop. I can go to the previous page of the report. Here is sales report, and I can see and modify and edit any one of the visualization. I can change the formatting if I want. Once you are done, you can go back to the reading view. When I click on reading view, it asks me if I want to save changes. No, I don't want to save anything. I was just exploring, and here I can use the report the way I want. You can export the report to PowerPoint, to Excel, or to a PDF file by clicking on the down arrow for export, and you can select the destination format, PowerPoint, PDF, or Analyze in Excel. Of course, you understand when you export to PowerPoint or PDF, that will be a static version of the report, and it will not have the full interactivity that we see here in Power BI services. I will close my browser, go back to Power BI desktop. Here I click on Got It. I can collapse the filters pane, and I finished creating my project. In this tutorial, we brought multiple files together in Power BI desktop. We cleaned and transformed the data, created relationships, and then created a visualization, added interactivity, we formatted our visualization, and then we published our report to Power BI services, where we can share it with others who will be able to view the report and interact with the different visualizations. If you enjoyed this training video, give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to my channel to be notified when new tutorials are released. The best is yet to come. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.